Welcome, everybody. All right, so the data center in the cloud. It's a big concept. It's where everything's starting to go these days, and NetApp has some really great technologies and a really great vision to get your data center into the cloud. And we're doing this through partners like Cisco and cStor so that we can solve some of these evolving data management challenges. When you think about your infrastructure, your environment, you're running into these new challenges on a daily basis. The Internet of Things, right? Everything's connected. And what is that doing? It's driving more data. But now the data is decentralized. Instead of it sitting in your core data center, it's out on the edge. Maybe it's even as simple as your refrigerator. Everybody talks about Internet connected everything, but that means your refrigerator, Internet connected, is making data that someone wants to do analytics on, you need to know about. So when you think of this at scale, there's lots of changes happening in data management. We have a growth in unstructured data. And so that's going to require new approaches to storing and protecting the data. And then the last thing we're going to need to do when you think of these challenges is we need to balance the security, the cost, and performance, and then the ability to leverage hybrid cloud solutions. Maybe you don't want all this data in your data center. You need it in the cloud. You need to be able to get to it from other resources. So lots of challenges that are starting to develop in the data center space today. The next piece that's really important is you've probably started to hear the term third platform. So third platform is made up of things like social media, mobile, analytics, and cloud. These are having a huge impact on businesses. Customers' expectations now, whether they be your internal customers of your organization, the people that your IT department services, or your customers as a partner and who we sell stuff to, is everyone expects an app for that. So that attitude, that mobile mentality of, I just need to be proactive and get to my data, that's starting to have a heavy influence on enterprise computing as well. And we've got some statistics up there. 25% increase by using social media as part of business. 75% of the world is using a mobile device. Analytics are showing a competitive advantage. Businesses that use analytics have a much better competitive advantage over their competitors because they have a better insight into their data and what they're doing. And then the last one is cloud. 60% of CIOs say that cloud is in their top 5 priorities. That's a huge number. That means everybody, literally everybody just about, is talking about cloud and the impact it's going to have. So along with that, the role of IT is changing. In the past, we were just builders and operators. So we would build servers, we would operate those services, and our end users would use them. But now, even internal IT has to start thinking like a service provider. We need to become brokers of services. So you're not just building an infrastructure so that your email has somewhere to run or so your SAP system has somewhere to run. You want to be able to provide a service to your internal customers and be able to provide them with the SLAs that they demand. And this viewpoint of like a service provider, that's what the cloud is doing. The cloud is already doing that. One of the things is when you think of internal IT, and this is my background, that's where I came out of this, is it's difficult for internal IT sometimes to market their value to the business. And so that's one of the reasons CIOs like to use cloud services, is because when they're paying that bill to Amazon, they know exactly what it costs. And so when internal IT starts thinking like a broker of service and like a service provider, you're going to start having, might not do chargeback, but you're definitely going to have showback. You're able to show the business unit what their piece costs and then run that up to the CIO level and say, this is what these services cost, and be able to show value for the business or the services that IT provides to the business. So when we think about cloud, cloud is about options. On-prem and public clouds both have merit. So what we typically see in the industry is that customers, or any business that's trying to do business anywhere, fits into one of 3 categories. They're either staying on-prem, they've got compliance, they've got sensitivity issues, maybe they're just not ready to go to the cloud. So they're going to stay on-prem, and they might even build an internal private cloud to be able to do that. And this gives them that service provider feel, but it's staying on-prem. Another category customers often fall into is they're still determining. They don't know which way they want to go. Maybe they want to stay on-prem, maybe they want to move to the cloud, and they're analyzing it. They're looking at costs, they're looking at performance. Will my end users accept this? And then the third bucket that customers often can fall into is they're moving to the cloud. They need that agility. They need that growth of the economics that the cloud provides, and they're jumping in both feet and moving to the cloud. But the key to remember is that it's about options. So there's a huge opportunity in the cloud. And the opportunity is for resellers of services, vendors, manufacturers like NetApp, as well as end user customers. Because cloud is extremely compelling for certain use cases, but it's not compelling for every single use case. And so the hybrid cloud is going to be the dominant model. And the key here with the hybrid cloud is to be able to open the door to take advantage of the different options. Maybe you run some services in the cloud, maybe you run some on-prem, and we want to unlock that door so that you can get to either side of the house, private or public, and find the best solution for your business needs and services. So hybrid cloud, this is going to be an ongoing transformational opportunity for the next 10 years. So let's look at some historical market trends here so you guys can get a view as to how much data is in the cloud. So the pie chart on the left is from 2013, and it's an IDG research of the total data and where it is. And the big slice of that pie, depending on how big your screen is, you may not be able to see it well, but that big green slice shows 50% of data not in any cloud in 2013. And then you can see the darker gray one, 28% is private. So just to give you an idea what that pie is showing. And the other two are both are public and hybrid. So you can see back in 2013, those were pretty small slices of where data lived. 1 year later in 2014, you can see that the not in any cloud slice reduced by a huge percentage. And then the private cloud piece got larger, as well as the public. So we can see this shift in growth of where data is going. And then if you jump forward to 2015, the biggest slice of that pie, nearly 50%, it's 43% is the actual number, is hybrid. So this is the amount of data that's in both types of clouds, both public and private. So I just told you what I think the trend is going to be, and here are the numbers to show you what the trend is. And you can imagine when we get these statistics for 2016, how much bigger that hybrid slice is going to be. So this is where people are going. Now, as part of this, we've got to talk about a couple of things about data and data in the cloud. The first one, let's talk about compute. Compute's agile, right? It's like a flock of birds, as the slide shows there. If it needs to change direction, it can. It's real easy to spin up compute, spin down compute based on your needs. However, data is like a giant elephant. You can get it moving, but it moves slow and it moves steady. So getting big, large chunks of data in and out of the cloud can be a challenge. Understanding these two truths about data and compute can help you make the right decision on how to leverage the private and public cloud for the business services you're offering. And in the next couple slides, I'm going to show you some ways where the NetApp Data Fabric is going to start bridging the gap and making it easier for you to take advantage of compute in the cloud, compute on-prem, without having to do so much data movement or without having to move data at all, or to be killing two birds with one stone and be covering DR, cloud capabilities, all in one set of data movement. So let's talk about what the NetApp Data Fabric is so you can see how it's unlocking the ability to leverage these hybrid technologies. So way back in the day, if you remember, before virtualization, we had island resources all over the place, right? You had compute, you had storage attached to it, and everything was a little isolated island. Well, with virtualization, we kind of consolidated all that. Now we had pools of storage and pools of compute. But when you think about the private and public cloud solutions, we're back to isolated resources again, right? If you have a service that you're getting out of a cloud service provider, or you've maybe put some stuff up in Amazon or SoftLayer or Azure, it feels stuck there. You've pumped all this data, maybe you've ingested from from sales campaigns on the outside, and now this data is stuck in the cloud. So we're back to having isolated resources. The NetApp data fabric is starting to weave a fabric of connectivity between the cloud service providers, the hyperscalers, and your private cloud. So this is going to allow you to integrate to the cloud, but still maintain control of your data and applications. In the next couple slides, I'm going to show you a few more details about how we're doing some of that. The first piece of how we do this is you need to understand the data fabric ecosystem. So you guys are all familiar with an ecosystem. If anybody uses Apple devices, you're familiar with Apple's ecosystem. They want you to have an iPhone, an iPad, and a Mac laptop so that you can do everything, and you can get your text messages on any device, you can start it on one and get it to the next. We're building that same thing, but we're doing it based on data on tap. So with NetApp data on tap as the core, we have the ability to leverage things like Cloud on Tap and On Tap Edge and NetApp Private Storage to start interconnecting all of these pieces. So you have the ability then to have data on tap in your core data center, NetApp Private Storage out on the end, a replication out to that, and then use, say, Amazon Compute to get to that data that's actually sitting there on a piece of NetApp equipment that you own. So this is going to start filling in, and when you layer in the things like On-Command Insight and the storage grid integration and FlexPod and all the other converged platforms, we're going to have this giant fabric where we can just have data be moving between any of the different platforms. And for any of you that were at NetApp's Insight this past year, and you attended the main session, you witnessed a demonstration where data was moved from one cloud provider to another by dragging and dropping between the clouds. That is the vision, the future of the data fabric. Is 100% of it there today? No, but this is what NetApp is building, a data fabric where all of our entire portfolio of products can all work together to start bridging these gaps that we have today in the hybrid cloud solutions, that you're going to be able to leverage the products out of our portfolio you want, whether it be E-Series, FAS, AltaVault, maybe even a homegrown system, and get it all interconnected with this fabric to get it all working so you can easily move services between providers both in the cloud and on-prem. So one of the ways this happens is the partnership with Cisco and NetApp. This is enabling distributed architectures because Cisco has its own portfolio of products that can provide a consistent architecture from end to end. So we're talking from the core, using a FlexPod in your core data center, to FlexPod Select for scale-out apps, out to remote data centers with smaller FlexPods, and even remote offices with FlexPod Express. So now you're talking about a consistent architecture, end-to-end, NetApp and Cisco, that's going to unlock the door for you to be able to have these private clouds, these hybrid infrastructures, and use the same technology from your core out to your edge, and then extending into the hybrid cloud where you're using Cisco service providers and integrating all of these pieces together to build an amazingly flexible infrastructure. So when you think about the data fabric, one of the processes you have to wrap your head around is how do I get into this? How do I fall into the cycle and make this work? And the first piece, the blue ellipse on the far left, is about unlocking the data value. And this is all the core NetApp pieces, things like our auto support and our management tools, products like the Snap Managers and the Snap Centers, and leveraging all flash. These are going to just unlock the data value. Start taking snapshots and running dedupe. You're getting more value out of that same data. The next step is going to be stepping into things like CDOT, where you have non-disruptive operations to where you never have to take downtime again to do hardware refreshes and upgrades. Leveraging things like workflow automation and AltaVault and storage grid web scale, you're starting to add service level responsiveness to your applications. And then the last step in the data fabric adoption cycle is going to be to step out to things like Cloud on Tap, software data on tap, Docker support. this is going to open up that hybrid and liberate your data across the cloud. So now you might have data in Amazon today, and maybe Amazon's not the cheapest anymore, and so you decide to go to SoftLayer or Azure. You'll be able to do that move and do what makes sense for your business and have your services and your compute be as agile as they can be, but still founded on this core NetApp infrastructure underneath. This is where we really start building out that end-to-end data center, private cloud, and hybrid cloud infrastructure. Now, one of the easiest ways to get started in the cloud, and one of the best use cases for it, is long-term backup and archival in the cloud. And one of the easiest ways to do that is with an AltaVault. AltaVault's going to integrate with whatever backup product you're already using today. I've got a long list of them there on the left-hand side, everything from VeritasNet Backup, EMC Networker, and Dell vRange are all listed there, because those can just dump to an AltaVault. And then an AltaVault will pump that data out to the cloud. So the AltaVault's going to maintain a local cache of a specific amount of data depending on the size of the AltaVault, and as that data gets old, it's going to put it out into the cloud, but it's all going to be encrypted. And you can see up there where that big blue arrow goes to the upper right in the public cloud, there's a big list of cloud providers up there. It's not just one or two. It can also be pumped out to a private cloud, which is going to give you the ability to have that data stored wherever you want, whatever makes the most sense for your business. This is probably one of the most compelling use cases for the hybrid cloud, and it's the easiest to start taking advantage of it. And the numbers and the return on that investment look really strong when you think about what it costs to start holding years worth of old data on-prem versus pushing it out into the cloud and then leveraging these other technologies when you need to bring it back. Now let me give you an example of where all of this end-to-end cloud stuff starts to work. And inside NetApp, we call it nCloud. And this is for our internal IT. NetApp's a big organization, around 12,000, 13,000 employees. So we've got a lot going on. And previous to having this nCloud, just like any other company, when somebody needs to spin up new corporate websites or provide some new service or some new development platform, they had to put in a request for hardware, and that hardware was put somewhere, and it was connected to storage. It was somewhere, but it was very, while there was a cookie cutter they could choose from, it was isolated. It wasn't very flexible. And so using the nCloud for NetApp IT, I did an end-to-end cloud tool where the consumers of the product, the application developers, development groups, would go into a service portal. They'd pick from the service catalog of what they want, and then an orchestration engine would take off and make decisions based on how long they were going to need it, what kind of performance they expected. Was it really just development or was it prod? And then decisions were made based on the service catalog to either put that service in a private cloud or put that service in a public cloud. More importantly, even once that was done, there's the ability to continually manage it, monitor it, report on it, and maybe even change where it is. Maybe it doesn't need to be in the public cloud anymore. Maybe it's become a super robust application that needs to be in a private cloud, or vice versa. Revisit the service catalog back into the orchestration engine, and then move these services to the appropriate platform ongoing. This is what IT service providers look like, and this is what your internal IT can start to look like to your business. A well-oiled, automated machine that can just provide the services that are requested of the business. Those were the topics I wanted to cover with you today. I want to summarize a couple things. You know, FlexPod for 5 years, we've had great success with it. Partners like cStor and our partnership with NetApp and Cisco to continually be developing new FlexPod NetApp joint products has been great. Digitization is being driven by hyperconnectivity, right? So the more we digitize and the more we connect everything, the more data we have. When you think about the future, the network's always going to be important, and it's going to always have to change to be able to handle all these new data platforms we're moving. And the NetApp Data Fabric's a key enabler. So there's a lot more to come from Cisco and NetApp, so keep your eyes peeled and look for some amazing new technologies. And I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts from the beginning of this presentation. you need to be thinking like a service provider. So when you think about the simplicity of going to Amazon, spinning up a VM, spinning up storage, and providing the service on that, you need to be thinking that your IT organization needs to work like that as well. The NetApp Data Fabric is key to making this all work to bridge those gaps between the public cloud and the private cloud. And then just run that through the filter in your own mind of how much managing your corporate data has changed. And you'll start to see that the vision of the data fabric and where it can take you in the future is going to unlock the doors to allowing your business to be agile and change and grow and be as efficient as it can. And that's all I had for today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rusty. Great insight, and I think a great reminder there at the end that IT is really transforming itself into service. So at this time, we are going to open up for Q&A. As a reminder, if you have any questions about today's presentation, please post them to the questions pane in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll take as many as time allows. We've definitely got a few minutes. So it does look like we have a couple of questions. The first question, obviously for Rusty, which cloud providers does Cloud ONTAP support? So it sounds like they're asking, is that an agnostic solution or specific to certain cloud providers? Can you elaborate on that a bit, Rusty?
I sure can. So currently, Cloud ONTAP works with Amazon Web Services only. That's where it runs at today. There are plans to get it into Azure and potentially others. As you can imagine, getting data on tap in a more or less in a hypervisor type role to run on the different cloud providers is a large undertaking. It's actually more than just what NetApp can do with it. So today is Amazon. Coming very, very soon, I can't commit any dates to you, but coming very soon will be Azure. And then I would expect others to follow suit. Like I said, lots of technical hurdles we've got to get over to get things to work in their compute and integrate with their network so that we can get that connectivity back out. So Amazon today, Azure coming.
I know you said you can't commit to dates, but Rusty, do you have a time, just even a general time frame? Is it a Q2 kind of thing, maybe later this year? Any more insight there?
Yeah, so expect the Azure Cloud ONTAP to line up with the release of Clustered Data ONTAP 8.4. We're kind of setting those on top of each other so that we can get the needed components into Data ONTAP that will make all of that work. So expect it to keep in line with the Data ONTAP release that's coming, the 8.4 family.
Awesome. That helps. I think there's a trigger people can watch for then. Great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Looks like we do have another question. Does AltaVault require a cloud subscription? That's a great question. I know some of those solutions sometimes have hidden costs, so always good to kind of know what's behind the curtain, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I get that question almost every time I talk about this, and the answer is yes. Must have a cloud subscription for AltaVault to work. If you're not doing that to the cloud, there are other ways of backing things up. So the whole purpose of AltaVault, to put that box on-prem, have it connected to the cloud, drop your backup data onto the AltaVault. It will be encrypted and sent to the cloud encrypted. So there's no need to worry about your data being in some raw open form in the cloud. In fact, the way you get it back is through an AltaVault. So even if somebody could go see your data in the cloud, it's fully encrypted, and it needs the encryption keys that are on the AltaVault to be able, or in your key management tool on site, but it needs those keys to be able to get that data back out of the cloud and decrypt it and get it back into your environment. So yes, you need a cloud subscription, and that is the purpose of that product, is to enable that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That actually concludes our Q&A for today. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention, and to our guest speaker, Rusty Young, for some great